Hey, it's that time again. Time for another manga haul video. I'm actually pretty happy and proud to say that this one is a little smaller than the last few. I've been going pretty hard, some would say a little too hard, on the manga buying lately. So it's nice to report this one sitting at a comfy 32 books or so, as opposed to the usual 45 to 60. Now, I am all about that quality over the quantity, so I assure you, despite smaller numbers, I've still got some really good stuff to show you all today. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Before we get started though, I'd like to welcome you to MangAnalysis, where I do little videos about the manga I've been reading. If you like what you see and would like to see more, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, maybe even leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. Alright, so we're gonna get started right away, and like usual, we're going to start with some new series. And the first one is Sword of the Demon Hunter, which I think is based off a light novel. This is my first manga that I've read that is based off a light novel, I believe. And I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised. It's interesting because it doesn't really follow the typical manga recipe for success, where something really big and important and action-packed happens in the first chapter. There's kind of like a slow build, kind of like what I really enjoyed from Urasawa. The first chapter isn't necessarily what's going to give you the entire plot or the entire quest, or even introduce you to the main cast or whatnot. So by the end of the book, something happens, something really important sort of starts, something is in motion, but it does take until the very end of the book to get there, and I really appreciate it. So the art is awesome, it's quite lovely. It's if you like the art from Jujutsu Kaisen, this might be something for you. Yeah, easy recommendation. Next we have Sheeply Horn Witch Rami. So if you've seen my last video, you'll know that this is a hidden gem that I'm recommending. It's absolutely awesome. I can't really recommend this book enough. It's sort of like a little bit, it starts off like the teasing genre, but it really becomes something else entirely. And by the end, there's a pretty big plot twist that sort of re-anchors this story in a totally different sort of series, I suppose. And it's only for the better. I cannot, if you have, $15 and you don't know what to do with it, pick this book up, read it, and it's going to be the best. It's going to make your day, and you're going to be like me, obsessing over the fact that the next book is only coming out in so long from now, and it's going to make you sad, but something to look forward to. Next we have Ladies on Top. Okay, so this series was the first book was maybe not necessarily the best. I think it tried to do a lot, and it didn't really give any of the characters the room to breathe that I was hoping it would have. Essentially, it's about a girl who is a little bit bored of the vanilla relationship she's been in, who meets a guy who's this really cool alpha male sort of dude, but who unfortunately has had really bad luck with women because he is actually not a top. He is a little bit of a submissive boy, but there's this really interesting discourse about gender roles and how he feels effeminate because he would rather be a bottom, and she's kind of like, let me be your mommy, and he's like, no, I'm the man, let me, and she's like, no, and he's like, okay. So I think the premise was a little bit more interesting than the deliverance for the first book, but I'm going to keep checking it out. I usually try to keep it to at least book 2 or 3 before I cancel a series. So Ladies on Top, it has promise, and I'm hoping that it delivers on it. Next we have Asadora, book 1, 2, and 3. So this is me continuing my obsession on Urasawa, who gave us Monster and Pluto and 20th Century Boys. I'm really enjoying it so far, and this was, I think, the slowest start from one of his series, I think. It starts off with, there's a storm, and the little girl is like, yo, I need to find my family. So at first you're like, oh, okay, so this is going to be about a storm, I suppose. No, it's just some stuff happens, and it was all a vessel for something else that, again, doesn't really show up until, like, way later. So again, at the Urasawa fashion, a very slow start, a slow burn, but absolutely awesome. I'm so invested in the characters because, again, I got to know them before the actual plot started. I was already invested, I cared about them, and I think that's really cool. That's really sweet. So, Asadora, if you like Urasawa, there's no reason not to pick this one up. As far as plot going, now after book 3, there's a clear... Like, we know what the protagonists are going for. We know what they're looking for. And I'm all here for it. So... check it out. Good stuff. Okay, next up we have the Hunters Guild Red Hood. Okay, so I talked about this in my wish list. This is a series that I wanted to get, and there's only 3 books because it actually got canceled, which is kind of interesting. After reading the first book, I can tell you that I'm saddened by the fact that it got canceled because it had a lot of promise. It was really cool. It was very interesting. But you know what? 3 little books with maybe an okay kind of rushed ending. I can have that on my shelves. I really like the art style. I believe this was done by one of the assistants of the artist behind My Hero Academia. And you can tell, but it doesn't feel like a ripoff, which is cool. So yeah, if you don't mind having a series that might have not lived up to its potential, but is concluded in 3 books, check this out. Okay, and to cap off my new series, probably my favorite, The Dangers in My Heart. So I got book 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've got to say, this is absolutely awesome. If you guys have seen my videos, you know I'm absolutely passionate about Don't Toy With Me, Mr. Nagatoro, and Komi Can't Communicate, and recently, Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. And this series is all of those in a nice little package, and I am absolutely loving it. It's essentially about this shy emo kid, like I used to be, who thinks he's like a psychopath, but really he's just introverted and doesn't really like interacting with people, and who develops a fun little friendship with the popular girl who's actually really into eating food, which is kind of fun. And yeah, they strike this really cool friendship, and it's quickly developing into maybe something more. And it's absolutely adorable. It's awesome. I really like the characters. They're really well developed, and they just bring a smile to my face, and that's what I want when I read manga. So, Dangers in My Heart, check it out. Let's go to series that I'm just continuing. So, first off is The Girl from the Other Side, book 12. I didn't even know this was coming out until I think my partner was like, hey, did you pick this book up? And I was like, 12th book? I believe you were making a mistake. And no, it exists. And you know what? This was really cool. It's just a collection of short stories developing the characters a little more, which, to be honest, the main series did a really good job with anyway. So, but if you've read The Girl from the Other Side, there's absolutely no reason for you not to pick this book up. I thought it was great. It was really wholesome. And I would welcome a 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th book of this series with more little short stories. So, who knows? Welcome Back, Alice, number 4. Okay, so this was a wonderful book. So one of my complaints about this series previously was that I thought it was very heavy-handed with the sexual content. I don't necessarily think that a series about, exploring gender and sexuality has to be as graphic as it was, but I think it's finally found a happy medium where the sexual content was also sort of wrapped in this blanket of wholesomeness, which I think it needed. And it was a wonderful book, and I'm really excited for the 5th one. This left off on a pretty good spot, I think. And yeah, I'm just really excited to continue it. And another book from Shuzo Oshimi is Blood on the Tracks, number 12. Okay, so I don't usually do spoiler things in these videos. I'm not really going to go into a spoiler, but it's information that you might not want to get before you read the book. So I'm just going to put spoiler and then timestamp that you can skip. I was not expecting a time skip. So the book finishes, and then there's a preview for the 13th book, where that book allegedly starts years later. And I'm tired, like in a good way, but I'm exhausted. I thought the conclusion was approaching, and now we're just going further in time, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. I say that, but I know I'm ready for it, and I can't wait for the next book. So Blood on the Tracks, continuing what it does best, making me uncomfortable, and I'm all here for it, so let's get it. My Dress Up Darling, number 7. So the last book came out like, feels like months and months and months ago, and God, I missed it. I really did, you know, like I finished the books, and then I finished the anime, or vice versa, I don't quite remember, but it's been a long time since I've seen Marin and, you know, the rest. Gojo. And I miss them. And I'm really excited to be back. This book, you know, nothing of note. It's just a very solid continuation of what the series has been doing so well. There was a little bit less emphasis on the cosplaying in this book and more about building relationships and, you know, getting Gojo to talk to other people. And I think that's great. I'm excited for book 8, and I hope you are too. Rent a Girlfriend 16, y'all. Okay. I'm saying it. The glow has dimmed for 2 books now. And I don't know where it's going, and the fact that there's like 24, 28 books available is just so scary to me. It's like, it's not funny anymore as much. Like at the beginning it was kind of, you know, pathetic but really funny, and Chizuru's awesome, and now she doesn't really say much or emote at all. She's just always kind of glum, and Kazuya is just actually kind of doing cool stuff but still feels like he's the worst person on the planet. And you know what, he probably is, and I don't know. So it's tough, guys. It's tough. I know everyone's like, yo, bad series. And I was like, no, guys, you're not giving it a chance. And now I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can continue doing this for forever. I'm going to give it a few more books, you know, because I am curious. But, yeah, no, the glow has dimmed. Blue Lock, number 4. And this is a light that just keeps shining on and on, everyone. This is a really good, swell continuation. Okay, so because the anime is really blown up, I couldn't help but see some spoilers. And I've got to say, it's actually been working positively for me, because I'm excited to see more. I'm excited to catch up. One thing I will say is that it has that trope of the reluctant, nonchalant genius. Of, you know, that character who just really wants to sleep, but all he has to do is give 10% of himself to be the best, but he doesn't care. And I don't love that trope, that archetype, if you will. And I'm afraid that it'll just become more present. But that's okay. It's a very small gripe. I'm still very curious. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong, right? This is just a first impression of this character, so I'm excited to see more about him and see if there's more than seeks the eyes, more than meets the eyes. Record of Ragnarok, number 5, and this is, I think, the best book so far, where it gives you a character that you actually kind of like, and then a character you don't, and they inverse the roles. Like Jack the Ripper right here, and Heracles. Okay, I just have to look that up because I forgot the name. But so Jack the Ripper and Heracles, and he's actually kind of like a really good guy, and this guy sucks, but he's human, he's the god, so it's like so it's interesting, and I'm really looking forward to reading more about it. I heard a lot of people dissect this character as a very well written villain slash anti-hero on the internet. So yeah, I'm excited to read more about it. Record of Ragnarok. It's silly, but it's good. Alice in Alice in Wonderland, book 4. Okay, so this book was awesome, and it made me want to try out the live action show. I watched the first episode and I didn't hate it, and now I'm just debating on whether or not I'm going to keep on keeping on with it. But the books are great. This one had, okay, so I've noticed that it does this once in a while where it gives you like almost like a spin-off chapter with these characters, and you're kind of like, ooh, are these characters going to be new characters? And then you don't know. So I had one of these. I had one, I think, in the second book as well. And they're really fun. It kind of like a nice break. This book was also great because it really develops the island and the mechanics behind the island, which I think, were important. It's not often something that you get to see in stories like this. Like for example, High-Rise Invasion, kind of nebulous or whatever. And so this is cool. Pleasure and Corruption, the final book. I think the ending was fine. I just didn't love the last 2 or 3 books. I thought the beginning was actually quite good. The first 3 books are really interesting, and they felt the need to bring in a villain where I don't think you needed a villain. I think adversity could have been handled with just confronting the stigma of BDSM as opposed to having an evil guy who's into BDSM. You know what I mean? I don't think it was necessary. I think it could have just been a social commentary, and I think it would have actually given more realistic growth to these characters as opposed to what actually happened. So I'm not going to spoil it. I thought the ending was really good for what it was, and it kind of tied the bow, every loose end, quite nicely into a nice little bow. Some of it felt forced, but that's okay. Do I regret picking this series up? Absolutely not, but it's not necessarily one that, I'll ever read again or, recommend out loud to people. It's just because it's just okay. And you know what? Sometimes that's fine. So, Pleasure and Corruption. Okay, so here we have 2. Blue Period, 11 and 12. This is interesting, I think. Blue Period 11. Absolutely loved this book. This, I think, is one of my favorite Blue Period books. I think it did some really cool things. It sort of played on a few characters that we haven't seen in a while that I thought were really interesting previously. And it takes our protagonist, Yatora, in a new environment, and it pushes him to become a better, not necessarily a better painter, a better artist, but to understand art a little better. And I think there's some really interesting conversations about, the gifted child who turns out to feel pressure to be doing the thing, not because they like it. And I think that's really important. I was kind of one of those gifted artists, and I was actually just okay. And then I was put in a room full of way better creators than I was in university, and I needed it. So it deals with this here, and I think that's really cool. I did not like this book one bit. It starts off Yatora's second year at university, and it kind of has that conversation of, do you have to go to school to be a good artist? Which obviously, you don't have to, but it was very heavy-handed. And yeah, there was just this coating of villainy that I didn't like, and the alternative is an art collective, which I think are super awesome. But again, there was this very clear black and white. They were both put in different camps when really in life a lot of them work hand in hand. So I didn't love that, and I hope that in book 13, this was all sort of a build up for an honest conversation about the 2 different organizations later, if that makes sense. So yeah, weird book, it was strange, very good, not to my liking. So yeah, Blue Period, throwing me some curveballs. TBH. Okay, we're almost done, guys. Thank you for sticking around. Blue Box number 2 was absolutely awesome and much better than the first book, in my opinion. So I had voiced my concerns about how I didn't really necessarily know what I was getting into, and that's my thing. But I also I was worried that they were sort of going to remove slowly bit by bit the sports aspect and just focus only on the romance. And they actually kicked up the sports thing really well. Now, other characters and their sports quest are starting to be developed, their own insecurities. And the author is doing a really good job of melding the two and making them seem like they're working hand in hand. And I think that's what you want in a sports romantic manga. But yeah, the sports aspect is awesome. It's really well drawn. There's care given to it, so I'm hoping that it keeps up. Daidan Volume 2 was just as crazy as the first one, and I've got to say I am so ecstatic about the series existing. Like, it's just so wild and creative, and it's really funny, and the characters are so lovable, and the world is interesting. And, that's all I gotta say. Sometimes I don't have to give in-depth words. This is just really good, and I'm super excited for the third one, so Daidan. Kaiju number 8, number 5. Okay, so this is like my golden baby child book series. I love it. This was weird. There was one character that was drawn so inconsistently in this book. Okay, so this guy, it's like in every single panel he's drawn a little differently, and it's weird, and it's like the author forgot how to draw in his own style when drawing this character, and it was really bizarre, and it kind of threw me off. But whatever, man. The book was great, the story is excellent, and it's really, spicing itself up there. The end of this book was quite dramatic in the best of ways, and Kaiju number 8 is still reigning supreme, even though I felt like this one character was drawn kind of weirdly for the majority of the book, so take it as you will. Jujutsu Kaisen 18. Man, this is good. This is good stuff. There's a character that had been sort of like mentioned a while ago, for a long time, like as like the other really strong student, and we finally got to meet him, and he's just a guy. Like, I believe them when they say he's sick, but so far what we've seen of him is that he's a guy and he likes money. I'm still hyped for it, and it's going into the culling games or whatever, and yeah, that's what we needed, man. Good stuff. Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, number 5. Ah, gosh, guys, what a great series. And yeah, again, it's nothing much to say. It's continuing what it's been doing, and it's been doing it very well. Our main character is sort of getting out of his shell a little more each book, and you love to see it, and you love to see her. She's awesome, and she's cute, and she's funny. So, gang. Mashal. Okay, so with Mashal, it's interesting. I remember a few books ago, I was like, it's finally doing it. A villain that Mashal couldn't punch in the face immediately, and then the villain was taken away, and then Mashal was punching people in the face, and it was like, oh no. So a very lateral move with this book, where it was the same thing, where it's like, I'm the best wizard because I have magic, and I'm strong, and I hate weaker wizards, and I believe in genocide. And then Mashal punches them in the face, and he's like, do you want to maybe not genocide? And then the guy's like, you make a compelling point, friend. And yeah, so whatever. I like it. It makes me laugh. I think at this point, though, I'm done expecting, like, whoa, plot. I'm just going to take it as it comes, and I love it. So this is it, man. Call of the Night number 10. Okay. Wow. Great book. I think this is like one of the best in the series. It really did some really interesting stuff. And it developed a character that I think, a lot of the readers wanted developed for a long time. It presented some really cool issues. It rose some new sort of mystery, which is exciting. And it kind of points the direction into, something else, something wicked. Other vampires that may not be super nice. Yeah, so, I'm always a fan of a new villain replacing another, and then, when the villain turns out to not be a villain, it's like, whoa, my god. So, good stuff. Kaguya-sama, Love is War, 24. Wow. I'm just so happy that I've caught up to this series because I love it. And this character right here, I find a lot of the character... Lavi, no, it's fine. This character... Okay, so while I don't think that the characters in Kaguya-sama are unidimensional by any means, I think they're all very well developed, very well written, but they play their role and they play their role well, and they don't necessarily deviate from their roles. And that's absolutely fine. That's why roles exist, and that's why we like roles so much. This character I find really interesting because I find there's lots of layers to her character, and I'm all up for it. You know, that might just be personal taste or whatnot, but I'm excited to see her development, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty big part, you know, on top of everything else that's going on. So, oh yeah, and tons of cool stuff happened to Kaguya and the other characters, and that's cool too, but I like her. Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 22. Oh my goodness gracious. This book had quite the event. Something big happened. You know, the last few books I felt like they were amazing and I love them and I would carry them in my arms lovingly. But, you know, it was just continuations of little moments. And this one had a big moment and it was really important and it was really well done. And oh my goodness, I'm really happy about how it happened because part of me was like, ooh, is this going to be the thing? And it wasn't. So, Komi Can't Communicate. And finally, my last book of this haul, Noragami 25. Okay, so it's not that funny. It's just an anecdote, I guess. I got this a while ago, and I was reorganizing my shelves a little bit, and like I put the books back where they belong on the shelves, and then usually I keep them out a little bit so that I know which ones I haven't read. And I didn't, so I just kept living my life, and then I was making the list for this video with all the books that I had to show, and this one was in there, and I was like, what? I haven't read this book. So I actually just read it for this video because I like to talk about the books in the videos or whatever. But wow, this was a heavy one, man. Again, I said it last time, Noragami is really picking up for me. The last 4 books, man, have been awesome, have been insane, and it's continuing it. And I heard somewhere that maybe we were in the last arc, maybe a climax was approaching, and I can see it. I feel it with every inch of my body, and I need it to happen. They cannot do the thing where there's a nice resolution and then it's like 4 weeks later and no, finish the series, man. It's so good and it needs to end where it's peaking, and right now is the peak. So Noragami. Okay, friends, well, that was that. I will now move on to the ending of this video, but before, I want my IRL face to say thank you for watching. And I hope you like that. And I got a really exciting video coming out. We're gonna look at all of this. I'm gonna do a shelf tour soon. That's what I'm trying to do here. Thank you. Well, that was my latest manga haul. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What did you pick up recently? Did you start a new series? Or maybe finally catch up on a series you've been dying to read? Let me know in the comments below, for I'd love to know. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did indeed enjoy it, consider subscribing. This was MangAnalysis, and I'll see you in the next one.